Ladies and gentlemen, hey, hi, how you doing? Welcome back to the channel. Thank you so much for stopping by. Of course, with the mid-season update for Warzone and for Vanguard, we got our last DLC weapon, our last ranged weapon of Season 1, and that, of course, is the WELGUN SMG, which honestly is pretty good, if I do say so myself. Today, I wanted to break down a handful of different Welgun class setups, sort of, based around different playstyles, different ways to actually use the weapon, because it's a pretty versatile SMG. And like I said, when it comes down to it, it absolutely is a fantastic choice to be running right now. Honestly, rivals the MP40. So as we go over everything today, if you enjoy the video at any point, let me know by dropping a like on it. Would be seriously appreciated. Let's try and aim for 2,000 likes on this one. And of course, if you're new to the channel or if you have not already subscribed, about 15,000 new viewers every single day are checking out the videos for the first time. And I always got you covered with everything going on in COD, news, updates, loadouts, tips. It's here every single day. So feel free to subscribe with your notifications turned on. And also right now, my friends over at G Fuel have bumped code WHosImmortal up to 30% off. So if you want to grab anything from there, now is literally the best time to do so. So this first initial loadout, which yes, is quite bugged. You guys can see there is no actual barrel on the gun here. I feel like this gun barely made it into the update. This first loadout here is sort of my experimental one right now. I don't think this is the #1 best loadout, but this is one that I feel like is worth trying because it definitely feels very solid and it gives you a good idea of how this gun is going to work. For what it's worth, the velocity on this gun is a bit iffy in certain fights, but here, initially, this is sort of like this more versatile build that is good for close range, but could potentially be used in some medium range fights as well, maybe as a bit of sniper support. Initially, I'm going for the recoil booster. If you really want to stay off the radar, though, definitely run Mercury Silencer. It's obviously going to give you better control. You get slightly worse range, but it'll still work well for, a semi-decent sniper support build, but I like recoil booster. It just makes the weapon a bit more aggressive. Now, on this build in specific, I'm running the shrouded barrel, which is sort of the big experimental part, because honestly, as we'll cover in these next few setups for it, the short barrel is one of the best barrels you could run with it because it's going to make it, that top tier SMG. The shrouded barrel here, though, is interesting because it's basically the vital perk, but on a barrel. You guys can see it has a larger one-shot kill area, which is basically just a larger crit area, better control, better accuracy, reduced sway and whatnot. So this is a solid barrel to be using for some potentially medium range fights. So I wanted to try that out and it felt pretty consistent, honestly. It was very easy to control and it also felt like it hit pretty hard. I'm using the basic slate reflector here, easy red dot, no brainer there. I prefer the skeletal stock on pretty much all builds. Better sprint to fire and better movement is perfect for an SMG build. For some of those medium range fights, I feel like hand stop was a good choice here, better control and accuracy. For a closer range build, as you guys will see in a moment, pistol grip is pretty much the way to go, but hand stop felt good on this build in particular. This is another crucial part of this specific setup, the 45-48 round mags, better velocity, better damage, better range, ideal for trying to extend that range and make this more of a sniper support build. I wouldn't use this on all close range builds necessarily, but it does actually work pretty well. Definitely probably the second best ammo option here. Definitely a big fan of that. In this case, I'm using hollow point. Usually I'd be using incendiary, but the velocity is already bad enough. And if you factor in the whole increased crit area with the barrel, and then you put on a hollow point and you have the better damage increasing rounds, suddenly you're dealing really good damage to pretty much every single part of the body, which makes this build especially interesting. I'm also running polymer for the better control, frenzy, which is basically like a quick fix perk built into the gun, and then also quick for some better sprint speed. Like I said, though, this is my main experimental setup. When it comes to what I would say is probably the best setup for the Welgun right now, let's break this down. So again, I am going to go for the recoil booster. I want you to keep in mind, this build really is to make it the best SMG possible, to beat out the PPSH up close, to beat out the MP40 up close. We're not really focusing on versatility. We just want close range dominance. So recoil booster first and foremost. I'm going to go through some of the basic setup, or basic parts of the setup first. Slate reflector, that's sort of a no-brainer. Again, I want to run frenzy. Gung ho, if you want to build a hip fire build, could work, but I don't really ever use gung ho unless I'm strictly hip firing. I just don't feel like it offers that much of a benefit if I'm going to be ADSing. I like frenzy here. It's a solid perk to have. Again, I'm also going to go for quick, and a pretty basic part of the setup as well is going to be polymer. You're pretty much always using that. So that leaves us to choose between the barrel, under barrel, magazine, ammunition, and stock. So like I said before, the short barrel, while it does hurt the damage a little bit and the sprint to fire time a little bit, is going to make this the most SMG like. And this sort of coinciding with the recoil booster is going to give you a great fire rate. It's going to feel very aggressive, and it's going to be perfect for those close range fights. For the stock, I do think you got a couple of options here, and it's really convenient because a lot of these stocks are actually pretty good for mobility, and they're pretty solid SMG stocks when it comes down to it. My two choices, though, would be skeletal or removed. Now, it really just comes down to what you want the weapon to do more of. Skeletal is not going to be as fast as removed, but it's going to be a lot easier to control. Obviously, the cons here on skeletal, you just lose that initial fire recoil where it'll jump up a little bit more in those first couple of shots, whereas on removed, you're going to have worse accuracy, worse recoil control, worse steadiness. So while it is great for mobility, I feel like skeletal is probably the more well-rounded stock here. That'd be my choice. Now for the underbarrel in this case, like I said earlier, I think the pistol grip is the way to go. You do lose some slight control and accuracy, but you're gaining sprint to fire speed. The hip fire accuracy is an added bonus, even though hip fire is not really the main focus on this build. If you wanted to, you could try and run hand stop here. Just won't be as fast, but that's a solid alternative. I just prefer the pistol grip personally. Now for the magazine, this is a big one. I think I saw Jay talking about it over on Twitter. The 9mm rounds really are the best option here. Usually we try and maybe focus on something like the Gorenko mags where you have that better control and better fire rate, but in this case, they just don't seem to get the job done as well. So the basic 9mm 64 round extended mag here is pretty solid, and obviously that is plenty of ammo, perfect for aggressive fights, right? Like this thing can get the job done regardless of what mode you're playing in. Definitely a very, very solid choice here. And then for the ammo, yet again, this is going to be pretty basic for an SMG setup. Either you're looking at hollow point or incendiary. Length in tier really is not too worth it just because the bullet velocity in specifically close range fights is not going to really come into play ever. So hollow point or incendiary is going to be ideal. Like I said before, the velocity on this gun in general does not feel that great, so you'll definitely notice with incendiary, you have to lead even some of your medium range shots here if you have this gun out in those areas a little bit more than with some other weapons, but obviously that burn effect is very, very beneficial. Hollow point, though, at the same time is also pretty solid to use. So it really just comes down to personal preference there. Do you want to light people on fire? Do you want to try and melt them literally? Or would you rather deal some increased damage to some of the extremities? It just comes down to personal preference there. But yeah, this build in general is very, very solid. Perfect for close range fights and really does rival the MP40 in damage and TTK. This absolutely is one of the more competitive weapons in the game right now. We do have a video coming out later today breaking down the whole new meta update, and in that I specifically say, you know, this build is competitive, borderline meta. It is right on the edge there. Absolutely one of the best SMG choices in the game with ease. So yeah, with that being said, those are some of the best setups that I'd be running right now for the Welgun. Absolutely worth grinding this out, unlocking it, and leveling it up because it is going to be one of those top tier weapons, I would imagine, for at least the remainder of the season. But that is going to wrap things up for today. Hopefully you enjoyed the video. If you did, let me know by dropping a like on it. Would be seriously appreciated. And of course, if you're new to the channel or if you have not already subscribed, this is the best place to be for all things going on in COD. News, updates, loadouts, tips, I got you covered every single day. So feel free to subscribe with your notifications turned on. But once again, thank you so much for tuning in. And until next time, take it easy, have an awesome rest of your day, and I'll catch you guys later. Peace out.